Hi guys, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria channel. So, I've been interested in Bowie knife fighting for quite a while, and it's something that I'm starting to explore a little bit more seriously at the moment. And I've used various training knives over the years, including sort of makeshift ones that I put together myself, plus things I've bought. One of the problems I've found with training knives is the balance between the stiffness of a training tool that you need to perform techniques properly, whether it's using a knife in a parrying type sense or whether it's just kind of disarming techniques or things like this, or indeed at the other end of the spectrum, something being so stiff that it essentially is really kind of mean to use and causes lots of unnecessary injuries to you and your training partners. So there's always a difficult balance between flexibility and rigidity in training knives, and unfortunately that's just something that we have to live with for now. However, something that I really don't like, I've had a number of really kind of typical rubber training knives over the years, and I've had the Revival Rondel dagger, which I bought and was hugely disappointed by. I found it pretty much impossible to use as a training tool for Rondel dagger because it was just too bendy and floppy. And most martial arts shops will sell forms of rubber training knife that I just find too bendy to be useful for anything really. You may as well use a banana, okay? However, Cold Steel have come up with a cool material which I quite like for training knives. They're a little bit hard on the body if you're using them with a degree of force in sparring, for example. However, my attitude to that is you just put more protective gear on. So what we're looking at here, I'll show one of these away, I've got a pair but we'll just look at one, is the Laredo Bowie trainer. And in short, I really like it. It's the right size I want. It's a 10.5 inch blade, which is about the size of a good big fighting Bowie. It's a nice shape, very nicely cast and finished. It looks like a real Bowie knife, but in plastic. There's a good degree of thickness to the edge and a fairly thick point, although personally for sparring I might have made that point a little bit fatter and a little bit rounder, maybe have a ball end on it. I think they've gone perhaps for something that looks as much like their actual Bowie knives as possible, without necessarily thinking about how they can make it the safest training tool or the most usable or useful training tool they could have done. So really at this point the only major change that I would make is I would put some kind of ball end, make it a bit fatter on the point, because that point, if you're doing proper Bowie knife technique, is going to get used a lot, okay? And even if you put on your sword sparring gear, say you've got a Spez jacket and forearm guards and good gloves and a fencing mask, that point is much more pointy than, for example, a Hemashot nylon sword, and it's a similar or even greater stiffness than a nylon sword, okay? So that point could be a bit bigger in my opinion. However, the balance between flexibility and stiffness is really good, I think. Although they call it rubber, I'm not sure whether technically it is rubber. It seems like a kind of polypropylene to me, but I'm by no means any kind of expert on materials or material science. To me it appears more like a kind of plastic or nylon type material rather than rubber as you might normally think of it. So does it bend? Yes, it does bend. However, if we push it into my body, you can see that bam, that's actually going to hardly bend at all. If you're giving someone a straight thrust, there's not going to be very much give in it. So you do need to wear a lot of protective gear if you're going to use these for sparring. However, the advantage is that it does have a bit of flex, so it's going to be a bit kinder on your arms and hands, and it does enable you to do proper techniques, whether it's counter-cutting into someone's arm as they're attacking you, or whether it's parrying their blade with your blade. Maybe you're practicing knife against sword defences, so you need some stiffness in the blade. Or indeed if you're doing disarm techniques where you have to be able to push against the side of the knife in order to get the knife out of someone's hand. As any of you know who've used the typical rubber knife trainers, if you try and do disarms on someone holding a rubber knife, you just go round and round and round all day and they just keep hold of the rubber knife as it goes blah, 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 and flops around, so that's pretty much useless. So really nice product, the Laredo Bowie knife trainer. I'm going to be having lots of fun with these, and I might do an update at some point based on my experiences of them, but I'm really looking forward to getting to work with these. The only final thing I would say is the issue of weight. And weight's a difficult thing because for a training weapon, if you're carting lots of equipment around in your bag all the time to class and so forth, and it's going to get annoying if all of your equipment's very heavy. However, a Bowie knife of this kind of size with a 10.5-inch blade, of which I own several examples, has a certain amount of weight to it. And this is quite light. Personally, I would have liked it, and I know this is easier said than done, but I would have liked it if this was a bit more weighty somehow. I'm not sure how you would do that. I suppose it would have to have some kind of inclusion inside of a heavier material, perhaps even a metal rod, perhaps going through the hilt and halfway into the blade or something like that. And I do understand that would increase the price, of course. I should mention these are about £13.20 or something like that in the UK, so they're pretty cheap, pretty affordable, and they do other knives which I might review in future reviews as well. But I'm just starting with the Laredo Bowie being the biggest and the one that appealed to me the most. So yeah, so the two things I might change if I would change anything. I would stick a ball point on the end to make it a bit safer for sparring, or at least a bit less injuring in sparring, and if possible increase the weight somewhat, because I think the weight in Bowie knife to get a sense of those the sort of cuts that you can use with that type of knife, whether it's a barong or a parang or a Bowie or whatever, these kind of knives that cut partly as a result of the mass of the mass and the momentum of the blade. You don't so much get a sense of that with these plastic trainers. However, it is the best Bowie knife trainer that I have so far seen myself or had the chance to use, with the exception of actual Bowie knives that have been blunted, and of course they're much more dangerous to use. Okay, so there we go, the cold steel Laredo Bowie trainer, available in the UK for about £13.20, and probably slightly cheaper in America because you guys seem to get everything slightly cheaper than we do. Okay, cheers, bye!